Have you ever had a situation where you didn't tell someone you were pregnant when you broke up? That's how I made that decision at my ex's wedding. We didn't end with a bang, we just wore out. The last month felt like living in a room where the lights kept flickering, and neither of us wanted to stand up to fix the bulb. Every conversation turned into a rerun. Every silence got longer. The night it ended, he said, "I can't keep doing this." I said, "Then don't." That was all. Two lines that had waited their turn. He slept on the couch. I pretended to sleep in the bed. In the morning, the air had that hollow after-storm quiet. His toothbrush was gone, his shoes missing from under the table. I found one of his shirts still in the laundry basket and held it for a minute longer than I meant to. It didn't smell like him anymore. A week later, I was standing in the drugstore holding a pregnancy test, trying to look like someone who just had allergies. I took it in the public bathroom because home felt too personal. Two pink lines appeared before I'd even put the cap back on, the kind of answer you can't argue with. I sat there on the closed toilet, counting weeks on my fingers, trying to remember when we'd last spoken without raising our voices. I almost texted him. The words were there. "I think I'm pregnant." Then, "We should talk." Then nothing. I deleted it all. We were too sharp, too proud. Anything I said would turn into a weapon for one of us. So I said nothing. I bought vitamins I never took and downloaded an app that asked how I was feeling every morning. It never gave me an answer. I went to work, smiled, told jokes, pretended my life wasn't about to grow or end. Both felt possible. 9 weeks later, it chose for me. The pain woke me at dawn, deep and mean. At the clinic, a nurse touched my shoulder and said, "It happens." I wanted to ask to who, but she was already handing me discharge papers. I walked home slower than usual, holding a paper bag with medication and an absence inside it. That was the day the secret started. I didn't tell him. At first, it was self-protection. Later, it became habit. People can get used to silence the way they get used to bad lighting. It stops bothering you once you squint long enough. Months turned into years. I moved apartments, switched jobs, learned how to cook without burning garlic. I dated a few people, all the wrong ones, all safely temporary. I wasn't afraid of love, just allergic to its paperwork. Every now and then, I'd wonder if he ever thought of me, but only in the same lazy way you wonder about your old phone number. Someone else probably uses it now. Then one afternoon, I saw him. Grocery store, produce aisle. He was holding avocados like he was weighing moral decisions. Beside him stood a woman with an easy laugh, the kind of steady warmth I used to envy. He smiled when he noticed me, a polite, startled smile, and I returned it like a stranger who almost remembered something. 2 months later, an envelope arrived. Cream cardstock, embossed names, his and hers. Wedding, May 14th. I stared at it long enough for the room to go dim. The rational part of me said, "Don't go." The human part said, "You have to see for yourself that it's over." I RSVP'd yes. The day was indecently beautiful. Sky clear, flowers behaving, guests dressed like optimism was still in fashion. I wore a blue dress that looked braver than I felt. The ceremony was outdoors. Vows full of inside jokes, applause at the right moments. He looked steadier than I remembered, like he'd figured out how to stand still without flinching. She looked radiant in the way women do when they know exactly where they're supposed to be. When they kissed, I clapped with everyone else and tasted salt I pretended was champagne. At the reception, the air smelled like roses and Chardonnay. I found safety near the buffet table, talking to people who barely remembered I used to be part of his life. I laughed, ate cake, and tried not to notice that every song the DJ played was about someone being fine. Eventually, I stepped outside. The air was cooler, easier. And there he was, leaning against a railing with a cigarette, which he used to hate. "Hey," I said. "Hey," he answered. We stood there listening to the muffled beat of other people's happiness. "I need to tell you something," I said. My voice sounded like it belonged to someone older. He didn't interrupt. "After we broke up," I continued, "I found out I was pregnant." He went completely still. The cigarette burned itself to ash between his fingers. He started, stopped. I miscarried, I said. 9 weeks, it's long over. His face folded in on itself, not quite grief, not quite shock. Why didn't you tell me? Because we were breaking, I said. Because you would have blamed yourself or tried to fix it. Because I didn't know how to say it without setting the whole thing on fire. He nodded, slow, helpless. I wish I could have been there. I know, I said. I wish that too. We stood in silence while someone inside announced dessert. I'm getting married in 10 minutes, he whispered like it was a confession. I know, I said again. Go. He hesitated, then looked at me with eyes that were suddenly 17 again. Before rent, before heartbreak, before the world got noisy. Thank you for telling me, he said. I'll carry it carefully. And then he walked away. I stayed under that willow tree until the laughter from the tent started to fade. The secret had finally left me. I felt lightheaded, almost dizzy from it. Inside, people were dancing badly and joyfully. I thought I might slip out unnoticed, but she found me first, the bride. Can we talk? She asked. Her voice wasn't angry, just steady. We stepped into the hallway near the restrooms, unromantic, fluorescent, honest. He told me, she said. I'm glad he did. I'm glad you did. I opened my mouth to apologize, but she lifted a hand. You didn't ruin anything. Secrets are heavier than truth. You set him down a little. Her eyes were kind, and that kindness hurt in a new way. I'm sorry you went through that alone, she added. I'm not sorry anymore, and I said. It's just part of the map. She smiled. That's a healthy map. Behind her, through the glass doors, I could see him dancing with an ant. The same ant who thought she could dip partners during slow songs. He'll be okay, she said. We both will. I know, I said. You already are. Later at the coat rack, I found a note folded into my pocket. His handwriting. Unmistakable. I'm sorry you couldn't tell me then. Thank you for telling me now. I'll carry it with care. I slipped it into my wallet between a grocery list and a photo booth strip from a long-ago vacation. Proof that things end, but not all endings are failures. There was no drama after. No phone calls, no late-night regrets, no stories about ruined marriages. They stayed married. I stayed intact. Sometimes doing dishes, I'd catch myself thinking, I might have been someone's mother right now. Then I'd rinse the glass and keep moving. The grief softened into something manageable, not a wound, just a place I didn't touch too often. A month later, I got an email from her. Subject, Aunt Danny cannot, in fact, dip. I laughed before I even opened it. She wrote that they were fine, that he'd cried, that they'd eaten takeout in their wedding clothes, and decided the day was perfect after all. She thanked me for being honest, for trusting them with something so delicate. I replied with a photo of my kitchen windowsill, a little pot of basil I'd finally managed to keep alive. We're all learning how to grow things, I wrote. Weeks passed. Life returned to its usual scale. Errands, emails, unremarkable days. But quieter, steadier. Sometimes I still carry his note. Not because I need it, but because it reminds me of a rare thing. 3 people who found a way to handle a fragile truth without breaking each other. The story doesn't end with redemption or punishment. It just ends. And that's the mercy of it. On evenings when the light turns that forgiving shade between gold and gray, I make tea, open the window, and let the city hum. The past hums with it, softer now. The stone I carried for years isn't gone. It's just smooth, worn down to something I can hold without pain. That, I've decided, is all healing really is.